Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today I'm going to be doing a Gaia the Fierce Knight deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is an amazing OTK deck that summons out all sorts of powerful Gaia fusion monsters that come out absolutely massive. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name description in a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Gaia the Magical Knight. This card is a definite 3-of in the build and is probably the best normal summon in the entire deck, because this card is always treated as a Gaia the Fierce Knight card. But if you control no monsters or your opponent controls a monster with 23 or more attack, you can normal summon this card without tributing, making it super easy to put on your side of the field. And if it's normal or special summoned, you can actually special summon a level 5 dragon monster from your hand or grave in defense position, making it super easy to summon out your copy of Curse of Dragon, the Cursed Dragon, which is the best target to be able to summon off this card. Curse of Dragon, the Cursed Dragon is an amazing card in this deck as a 3-of, because if this card is normal or special summoned, you can add a spell or trap from your deck to your hand that specifically lists the card Gaia the Dragon Champion in its text, which the best target to actually search off this card is your copy of Spiral Fusion, letting you go in for a fusion play with these 2 cards, which is just absolutely amazing. I absolutely love playing these cards as 3-of each in the build. We then play a single copy of Curse of Dragonfire. This card is essentially a walking polymerization, making it a great 1-of in the deck, just as an additional copy of a Curse of Dragon card. We then play 3 copies of Artillery Catapult Turtle. Artillery Catapult Turtle is an amazing card in this deck, and it has the ability to contribute a monster to special summon out a Gaia the Fierce Knight monster or a level 5 dragon from your hand or deck, making it super easy to summon out your copy of Gaia the Fierce Knight or your copies of Curse of Dragon, just to get the exact piece that you're missing on the field, which is just so cool about this card. We then play 3 copies of Blackluster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning. This card is an amazing boss monster to be able to play in the deck to OTK your opponent with, and it's super easy to put on your side of the field because if you go in for a fusion play, you're already going to be set up to be able to summon out this card, because your copy of Gaia the Magical Knight is actually a light monster and your Curse of Dragon monsters are all dark, making it super easy just to banish 1 each from the graveyard to summon out a Blackluster Soldier to your side of the field. And this card is really amazing to be able to OTK your opponent because it can attack twice, or it can banish a monster or banish a card off the field, which is just so cool to be able to do. And I absolutely love this card in the deck as a 3-of because it's so easy to put on the field. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Harpy's Feather Duster. Harpy's Feather Duster is an amazing 1-of in the deck just to deal with your opponent's back row so that we can go in for our OTKs. We then play a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is a definite 1-of in the deck because this card helps out a lot in this build to just stop your opponent from hand trapping you while you're going in for your plays. We then play a single copy of Instant Fusion, basically as a second copy of Called by the Grave, because you can activate this card and summon out a copy of Millennium Eyes Restrict to your side of the field to guarantee that you're going to be able to go in for a fusion play, which is just so cool because it will actually eat a hand trap, which is just such an amazing thing about this card. You can also summon out a Curse of Dragon Fusion from your X deck, which can help you go in for fusion plays, which is amazing. We then play a single copy of Terraforming. Terraforming is really good because we actually play multiple field spells in this deck, and this card helps us get to the exact one that we need. We then play a single copy of Set Rotation. We play 2 different field spells in this deck, and this card actually helps us get to both of them, which is amazing, while also giving our opponent a field spell to thin our deck. We then play a single copy of Dragon's Mirror. This card is basically like Miracle Fusion for this deck, letting you go in for fusion plays by banishing the materials from the graveyard is just absolutely crazy. This card is a definite 1-of in the build, just to help you make more fusion plays in this deck. We then play 2 copies of Spiral Spear Strike. This card allows your monsters to do piercing damage, which is amazing because it lets your Gaia the Fierce Knight, Swift Gaia the Fierce Knight, or Gaia the Dragon Champion do piercing damage, which is just absolutely amazing. And if Gaia the Dragon Champion inflicts damage to your opponent by this effect, you actually get to draw 2 and then discard a card, which is amazing because these actually stack. So if you get multiple copies of this on the field, you'll get to draw up to 4 and discard 2, which just helps you dig into the deck for more combo pieces to go in for game. We then play 2 copies of Ultra Polymerization. Ultra Polymerization is a really cool 2-of in this deck because this card lets you fusion summon by paying 2,000 life points a fusion monster from your X deck using 2 monsters that you control as fusion material. The only downside to this card is it has to be from the field, which is a little bit of a downside, but it has an insane effect that when you do fusion summon, you can banish this card from the graveyard to target 1 fusion monster that was fusion summoned with this card's effect, and special summon back the fusion materials used for it back to your side of the field with 0 attack and 0 defense, essentially to go in for another fusion play, which is so cool about this card. I absolutely love opening up this card with like a copy of Gaia the Magical Knight and a Curse of Dragon the Cursed Dragon because I know I'm going to go into 2 fusion monsters using this card and a Spiral Fusion I'm going to search off the copy of Curse of Dragon the Cursed Dragon, which is just so cool. We then play 3 copies of Spiral Fusion. Spiral Fusion is a definite 3-of in the deck because this is the card you're always searching off your copy of Curse of Dragon, the Cursed Dragon, because it lets you fusion summon a Dragon Fusion monster from your X deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. But if you special summon out a Gaia the Dragon Champion by this effect, it gains 2,600 attack and can make up to 2 attacks on monsters during each battle phase, which is insane. This card helps you OTK your opponent extremely easily and is an amazing card in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Gateway to Chaos. Gateway to Chaos is really good in this deck as a 3-of because when this card is activated, you can add a Gaia the Fierce Knight monster from your deck to your hand, making it basically a Rhoda for the deck for your copy of Gaia the Magical Knight, which is amazing. We then play 3 copies of Galloping Gaia. Galloping Gaia is really cool because this card lets you reveal either Gaia or Curse of Dragon in your hand and search the opposite one that you didn't reveal, which is such a cool effect about this card to be able to get the combo piece that you're missing so you can go in for your fusion plays. This card is a definite 3-of in the build, and it's actually the reason we play Set Rotation and Terraforming because you really want to get to this card. We then play 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance. Pot of Extravagance is really good because we don't need every single card in our X deck. As long as we can summon out some sort of Gaia fusion monster, we're going to be okay to OTK the opponent. I don't want to play Pot of Prosperity in this build because it does half the damage that your opponent takes and this card doesn't, and also we get to draw 2 cards to help us dig into the deck for more plays. And this deck is already consistent enough. This card just adds bonus draws to be able to get into cards like Instant Fusion, Called by the Grave, Harpy's Feather Duster, Dragon's Mirror, Ultra Polymerization, or other fusion materials to go in for more plays. We then play 3 copies of Book of Moon. Book of Moon is really good in this deck as a 3-of, just flipping your opponent's monsters face down so that you have a guaranteed safe attack target to go in with, especially if you have cards like Spiral Spear Strike that allow you to do piercing damage. I absolutely love this card in the deck, and the only thing that makes Book of Moon better is playing Book of Eclipse right beside it, guaranteeing that you're going to flip your opponent's cards face down. Book of Eclipse and Book of Moon in this deck are my hand trap slots and basically the flex slots of the deck that you use to be able to flip your opponent's cards face down so that you have a guaranteed target to be able to swing into. I absolutely love these cards in the deck because they help you OTK your opponent so much easier by just swinging into cards that are face down and doing piercing damage with cards like Spiral Spear Strike. These cards are absolutely amazing this format and help out a lot to disrupt your opponent even if you go first because they're quick play spells, so you can set them to your side of the field like traps and then flip them up during the opponent's turn to disrupt your opponent, which is amazing. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, guys, we're going to start with 3 copies of Gaia, the Magical Knight of Dragons. This card is a definite 3-of in the build and is actually our main boss monster of the deck. And this card requires a Gaia the Fierce Knight and a level 5 dragon to be able to summon it out, which is always usually going to be your copy of your Gaia the Magical Knight plus a Curse of Dragon monster. And this card's name becomes Gaia the Dragon Champion while it's on the field, so when you fusion summon it, it'll basically gain 2600 attack if you use Spiral Fusion and can attack 2 monsters, which is such a cool ability. It also has the ability during the main phase, quick effect, you can target 1 other card on the field, and this card loses exactly 2600 attack points, and if it does, destroy that card. And when this card destroys opponent's monster of battle, which is not a once per turn effect, it gains 2600 attack points, which is insane. That is a really cool ability that every time it destroys a monster, it gains 2600 attack points, because you can easily push this card over 10,000 attack points if you use Spiral Fusion to be able to make this card. We then play 3 copies of Sky Galloping Gaia, the Dragon Champion. This card is really cool because it actually searches out Spiral Spear Strike on Fusion Summon, which is such a cool effect about this card. And it also has a really cool effect that when this card declares an attack on an opponent's monster, you can change the battle position of that opponent's monster, pushing it into defense position so you can do piercing damage. We then play 3 copies of Curse of Dragon, the Magical Knight Dragon. This card is really good as a 3-of in the deck to be able to summon off your copy of Instant Fusion, because it has the ability, if you fusion summon a level 7 Dragon Fusion monster, essentially your other Gaia fusions, it actually has a really cool ability that you can also banish monsters from your graveyard as material, letting you go in for additional fusion plays if you make this card. This card is a definite 3-of in the deck and helps out a lot because if this card is fusion summoned, you can start a spell or trap in the grave that mentions Gaia the Dragon Champion and add it to your hand, which is a great effect about this card. We then play 2 copies of Millennium Eyes Restrict. Millennium Eyes Restrict is a good 2-of in the deck to also summon off your copy of Instant Fusion just to give you a little bit of protection in case you think your opponent might have hand traps in their hand and you want to go in for game. Or if they have negates on the field, you can use this card to be able to bait out negates and also eat monsters on the field. We then play 2 copies of Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon. We do play quite a few level 7s in the deck, and so this card is easy to make in this build to just basically burn your opponent for 500 points of damage every time they breathe. This card is so good in the deck as a 2-of because it just helps you out a lot to just do a lot of damage to the opponent very quickly to close out games with your copies of Gaia. We then play 2 copies of Linkuriboh. The reason we play 2 copies of Linkuriboh is so that we can use it with our copy of Millennium Eyes Restrict, just in case we need to protect ourselves from battle, especially the effects on your Gaia, the Magical Knight of Dragons, to be able to reduce its attack by 26 to pop cards. Sometimes you'll make it go down to 0, and this card just helps you out protect it a little bit, which is really nice. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played a Gaia the Fierce Knight deck before, you should definitely give this deck a try because it's actually a very budget deck to be able to pick up, which is really nice. I absolutely love playing this deck, and it's one of my favorite decks to actually carry around with me because the duels are so fast with you OTKing with this deck. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification, become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.